Hey there, no-coders and low-coders, and even coders are welcome. In today's video, I'm going to be walking you through some of the basics to utilize Appgyver and their ability to grab certain bits of system information or device details to customize the user experience for your mobile app. Now, quick 5-second rundown on Appgyver, as always, basically just walking you through. This is a no-code, low-code platform to build mobile and web apps completely free if you make 10 million or less in revenue. I have tons of tutorials both in my description and on my channel, but without further ado, let's go ahead and jump straight in. So first things first, don't forget to like and subscribe if you like the content. Let me know, drop comments down below. Love to communicate, see if you have any other requests or ideas for new videos, and I'd love to help out. If there's anything that I can help out with, just let me know. All right, so let's go ahead and jump straight in. So we have this application, which is from my last video, which will have a link in the description, where we grabbed device details. For example, we set a couple of different things on page load. So the quick, let's just say 15-second recap is when we click on page layout down here, you'll see we are setting 4 app variables. We're setting them to basically determine the operating system, screen dimensions, height and width, and then in Appgyver, what is called the form factor, but basically tablet, desktop, etc. Now, it is important to note that you definitely want to make sure that you're doing your research and following any applicable rules, guidelines, regulations, etc. when grabbing, using, and or storing any device details for end users. So what we're going to do is try to set something up to where we're going to display a different page or maybe load a different page based on the device type. It's going to be a little bit harder with screen dimensions because there are so many different dimensions. But what we'll do is we'll try to cater it because I believe if you click on this variable, for example, and we see the assigned value, when you go to variables in Appgyver, you get examples over on the right-hand side. I don't know if this is an exhaustive list, but at least this is a small number of examples to work with. So what we're going to do is we're going to try to start off with something simple. So we're going to delete these middle two because they're not really going to be super relevant for this. And we'll delete the variables for these as well, just to simplify things. So right now, if you skipped the prior video, you can get caught up by dragging over 2 text boxes or 2 text components, and then you can assign an app variable to each. So my first one, I have app variable 1 and app variable 4. And then on page load, I'm setting those app variables to systemvars.os and systemvars.formFactor. If you have questions, check out the video that's linked in the description. All right, so the next thing that we're going to do is we're going to set 2 new pages because we want to open the application for, let's just say, tablet and for browser. So what we'll do is we'll click up here and we'll click New Page, and let's put Browser. And then here we will put browser page, you made it. And then we'll just call this browser. Not going to put anything flashy. And what we'll do is in this next page, we will call this tablet. And again, naming conventions are important, especially when you're going to get a more complex application. And we'll go with tablet, and then we'll just call it, this is the tablet page. And we will click save. So what we'll do now is you would normally probably want a back button, but we'll just go back to our empty page, which is our home screen. And here we're going to set some if-then conditions. Now, this isn't going to make for the best experience because the page is going to load and then send you to a different screen. So you'd probably need to figure out how to work this out if this is something you actually wanted to do. But what we will do is we will bring over a couple of things. So to reduce confusion, what I'll do is we're going to set the app variable. And then for both of these, what we'll do is we'll find the if condition. So you could set this for each. We will start with this one here because it's a little bit more simple. So we will connect this, and you'll see for the if condition, by default it's showing false. Now you'll see outputs, and you'll see if it's truthy, the first output's triggered. If not, second output is triggered. So basically you just need to think of true is at the top, false is at the bottom, and then you can choose condition, etc. So you'll see that this is bound to true or false. So we can put a statement in here, and based on that input, it's going to trigger one of those two nodes. So the idea, if this helps you to simplify it, is we will put open page and open page. So hopefully this helps you to kind of better visualize. So what we want to set this up to do is if it's true, we're going to open this page. If it's false, open this page. So this first one is going to be page browser. And then the second one we will set to be page tablet. And again, to do that, you can select each of the open page options and then just select the page and choose the correct page. So again, browser's at the top, tablet's at the bottom. And since we're dealing with true false, sometimes it can be easy to get the two flipped. But if you're ever struggling, there are is and is not functions you can use. So what we're going to do, we may need to do a little bit of reworking depending on how these variables are saved, but we can do is, and you'll see is equal. And if we click on this, you'll see it returns true if both are true, otherwise false. So you'll see is equal, and we will have two variables side by side, and you'll see a couple of examples here. So basically what we want to do, we'll just copy this example and we'll paste it in here. But I did want to show you the is not real quick. So you'll see as you're scrolling through, there's a ton of options, and you should be able to scroll through. And if you just underscore, actually, this one is actually just not, if I'm not mistaken. So you'll see when we click on this, and it's basically the opposite. So to reduce confusion, again, we'll just go with is equal. And you'll have value 1, value 2. So what we want to do is we want to choose app variable, and the one down here is app variable 4. So we would want to choose 4. And then here, since browser is the first page, we'll choose that. So we just want to see how it's displayed, and it just says desktop. So we'll just put desktop, and we put it in quotes. That way we know it's just this text here exactly as that appears. So if those are equal, we want it to open the first page. And if they aren't, so if it's anything else, we want it to open the tablet page. Now, one thing to consider, you may need multiple if conditions that are linked because these are only two options. So we're basically saying if it's a desktop, do this. If it's not, do this. The problem is there could be tons of other device types, so we'll walk through that logic in a second. But for this, we're just going to click save real quick and just see what happens. So you'll see on this screen, it loaded the tablet page as it should. And on this screen, it automatically loaded the browser. So when we click home, it's going to keep redirecting us. So let's just click launch and preview, and it's going to immediately load or do it pretty quickly. So you'll see we almost immediately load the browser page. And on this side, we pretty much immediately load the tablet page. So that's one option to allow you to be able to load based on the device type. Now, one thing to consider, although this is not fun, it is an option, is to have essentially cascading if-then functions. So in this case, because we're dealing with multiple device types, so you'll see if we were to scroll back just a bit, so we can always, if you're ever lost, just kind of reset a little bit. So if we go back and we type in systemvars.formFactor in the formula box, you can see your different device types. These are the ones you're going to use for your screen or for your function. So there are different software applications online or even just devices you can use to test each of these, but you would ideally want to use each of these at the very least when you're creating your functions. Otherwise, users could potentially get the wrong information being displayed. So here's the prime example. In this case, if my device type set up like this is not a browser, this action is triggered and it's going to show the tablet page. But maybe someone is, for example, maybe they're using a larger desktop. So when we go to the assigned value, maybe they're on a big screen. So if we don't know what big screen is defined as, then they could be getting the tablet page on a large screen and it could end up being a bad user experience. So we'll walk through creating a second if-then statement. So this is where we start kind of cascading these. So we will scroll down on the left-hand side and we'll drag in another if-then statement. And sometimes they don't want to come across. There we go. So we will connect this. So what we've decided here is if it's equal to desktop, we're going to go ahead and open the desktop page. Now, if it's not equal to desktop, it's going to do the next if statement. So what we'll do, I like to copy and paste whenever I can, although it can mess you up at times. But we'll copy this text and we'll paste it into this if condition. So in this case, what we're going to do is we'll go to this condition here, and in the formula, we will paste in the same text, but what we're going to do is we're going to keep app variable to be the same, because this is going to tell us what device type are we on. And then here we can put tablet, and then we can click Save. Now, if this is true, we'll open up the tablet page. And then if it's not true, we can continue this cascading if-then condition if we want, or we can close it off with the final one. So, if we only want users to use a browser and a desktop, then what we could do is we could actually do something like a toast message and say, you know what, if they don't have one of these two device types, we will say, please use tablet or desktop to access this app. All right. So for this, unfortunately, I can't test it because I do not have an unknown device type, but we can at least check that the first two conditions are working. So I will close this, and with this, you'll see it's constantly loading the right thing. It's constantly loading the tablet page. So I will go to Launch, I'll go to Distribute, and for those of you that are unaware, the preview app is immediately going to reload basically as soon as a change is completed, so that's why that's happening. So we are going to go to Preview just to see a fresh load of the screen. Click Device Specs, and you'll see it pretty much instantaneously loads the browser page. Tablet on here, and if we were to open a non-desktop, non-tablet device, that is going to be showing what Appgyver would grab as unknown, or really anything else here that's not desktop or tablet. It is going to give a little error message that's going to say, please use tablet or desktop to access this app. Now again, if you want to, you could do the next if statement and do the larger desktop screen and choose different device types, but that's the short and simple version on how to set up essentially multiple if conditions and grab information and display it specifically for users. Now, you also know how to set it up to display different content, such as the really just showing the app variable in real time. Another thing you could do, if you wanted, is we could set up a toast message instead of these pages. So what we're going to do here is I'm going to basically just delete all of this because we really don't need it anymore. And then what we will do is we're going to try to do this and show toast messages instead. So what we'll do is we will delete these two text boxes, and then we'll drag over a button. And when this button is clicked, maybe we want users to see their device information. So we can have a toast dialog, and the toast dialog can just have the data variables, or in this case, app variables. So we'll just show app variable 4, and we'll click save. And then another thing that you would basically just need to make sure of is that you've deleted any logic to redirect users. But if we click button right here, you'll see nothing loads. That is a sign that we would obviously want to check on a different device type. So if we click the button here, you'll see it is not loading any information. So in this case, we would want to check and see what data is being shown. Sometimes data from Appgyver could be displayed as an object, as text, etc. So data variable 4, in this case, we removed the logic to say, what is this variable? So we'll just go back through and drag in the set app variable option, app variable 4, and then we decide what do we want users to see. So let's try to change this up just a bit and show something a little different. So we're going to scroll down to system variables, and let's try to find something a little bit unique that we would want users to see. So maybe we want them to see dimensions. Let's see if this is something that we could show. So if we click over here, you'll see we have screen width, height. So those are a couple of options there. And on this screen, we're seeing the same thing. Now, if that doesn't look super attractive to you, I do have a video on my channel about essentially editing that text and kind of cleaning it up. Just bear in mind that you could have tons of different device sizes, so you would want to make sure you kind of figure out how to do that best. And then to wrap things up just a bit, I want to do something a little different because I haven't used the confirmations in here before. So this is a really cool one. Essentially what we'll say is yes or no. So you'll see the dialog is confirm, and then your outputs, it shows output at port 2, output at port 1. So the idea would be users can decide yes or no, and that'll determine what happens next. So in this case, we could have maybe open one page or open another page, but I just want to see what this looks like. So let's, in the dialog itself, we'll find one final, basically just system variable to show. So let's scroll down a bit and use something a little different. So we have network status. That seems like a pretty good one. So we could save that and click save. So over here, we'll click button, and you'll see it's showing nothing. So what we'll need to do is need to make sure that we're setting up, let's see, so we actually need to set that to be the app variable. So we have effectively loaded it incorrectly. So what we're going to do is we're going to go to app variable, and we're going to choose app variable 4. And if you remember on page load, that's where we're going to change the variable here. So instead of dimensions, we will scroll down and find that network status again and click save. So we'll wait for it to refresh. So we'll click on the button and it says Wi-Fi, which is correct. And then over here, we will click the button. And I'm not sure if this one's just not going to load in a browser. I'm not sure what can be loaded in a browser as opposed to in some kind of a native application. So we'll try to load it one more time, but I have a feeling there may be some issues with that. As you can see here, it's not loading correctly, but it does load in the Android app, and you'll see we do have confirm and cancel options. So again, that shows, I think it would be very wise to make sure that you're doing your testing and testing on different device types. If you assume everyone's going to load correctly and you don't take into account there could be unknown values, then you do run the risk of potentially impacting the user experience in a negative way. And again, make sure you're doing your testing on the device or the browser versions. We'll just do one quick final thing here. So we are going to go to the page layout, and I've already showed you all, but just want to show one more thing. I believe we've already kind of gone through this, but if you go to, let's just say browser name, unfortunately, when you save this, You'll see in this case it's showing Netscape, so again, this is another reason you would want to do testing. If you assume everyone's going to be using Chrome, or let's just say Safari, you could run into some issues, so make sure that you're doing your testing in different browsers and device types. And I hope this sets you up to learn either you want to load different pages based on device types or display certain data for different devices. But if you have any questions, drop them in the comment box below. I hope this was helpful, and I'll see you all in the next video.